Just a few weeks ago, our filmmaking community witnessed an explosion of new cameras. Some very exciting, others not so much. Now, personally, I was very excited to see what Fujifilm was going to bring to the new GFX system, and they did not disappoint with the GFX 100 Mark II. I was about to say the second because that's what they're actually calling it, but I digress. Now, what makes the GFX 100 Mark II exciting is because it's the only medium format camera out in the market outside of the Arri Alexa 65 for professional video. Yes, it's still in a hybrid body. We'll get to that a little bit later. But for $7,500, you have a massive sensor that shoots 8K, 4K, all the different things. I'm not going to get into all the specs of it, but it's very exciting to see that technology now come under $10,000 US. Now, with all the new features that are in the GFX 100 Mark II, a lot of us who own the XH2s are still wondering what's going to happen with the updates. Now, I do have faith that Fujifilm will address all the things that we've been asking for that made it into the GFX. Like, they can't abandon their own flagship Super 35 camera, but I know nothing, honestly I don't, but we'll see what happens. The real question is, are these two cameras enough for Fujifilm to shake up the film industry to get the attention and respect that they've been wanting for a long time? Actually, do they want to have the respect in the filmmaking community? That's what we're going to kind of explore in this video here, so stick around. All right, y'all, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and if you're a Fujifilm lover or just curious about the system in a whole, I have 22 videos in a playlist in the description, so make sure to watch a lot of those as you kind of witness the journey where we are today. But I love my Fujifilm XH2s. It was the camera I was hoping that Fujifilm will make, and they did not let down, in my opinion. But also make sure to like and subscribe and to hit that bell. I don't like always saying that, but for some reason, YouTube is tripping. It does not push out the video to all of my 21,000 subscribers yet. But if you want to get notified immediately when I upload more videos, make sure to hit that bell as well. First and foremost, I don't ever regret using Super 35 cameras for professional work and even here on my channel. It's really a matter of understanding the weaknesses and strengths of whatever system there is, and all systems have that, whether it be full frame, Super 35, or Micro Four Thirds. But in particular, the Super 35 system is extremely flexible, and if you understand what you're doing, you can get the best out of it. Now, what I love about the Fujifilm XH2s are just a couple things. I'm not too hung up on what features are not in the camera just yet, but the core elements that make this camera great are the image quality, meaning the dynamic range, highlight roll-off. It has 14 stops of dynamic range in f-log 2, and I think that's just amazing. It does it really well. The fact that it has open gate, I love flexibility in cameras. That's pretty much sort of my philosophy behind getting certain cameras. How flexible is the image in terms of codecs, but also frame rates and resolution sizes. So having open gate has been a dream to have, especially the work we've been doing.
Now, when it comes to recording formats, I normally just stay in ProRes, and that's either LT, 422, or HQ, depending on the project. I did explore the option of B-Raw, and I made a whole video about that, and I haven't revisited because after a while it just became a little bit too complicated, and the ProRes in the XH2s is so good and so rich that you just don't need that 12-bit or the raw flexibility, in my opinion, if you're not doing any professional, high-end professional stuff. The ProRes will get you by, and it looks just as good. The flexibility of B-Raw wasn't fully there from what I remember when I did that video, as if it was a native B-Raw, so might as well just get a Blackmagic camera at that point. I haven't even bothered with ProRes RAW because I just don't like what ProRes RAW looks like. In my opinion, I don't have the skill set to really finesse it or the time, so it's just something I just did not bother with. Now, going back to the SMALLHD monitor, there are some unique things that you can do with the monitor outside of the fact that you can't record to it, obviously, because it's not a recorder, but the SMALLHD monitor allows you to use certain features that the Fujifilm and SMALLHD have collaborated on. First thing being EL zone. I made a whole video about this too. You can definitely check it out, but essentially it's a more accurate way to read your exposure. It gives you a very clear map based on stops. Now, just to save some time so I don't have to reshoot how to use EL zone and set it up, here's the excerpt from that video that I made about it. Again, you can watch it yourself, but this is how to set it up.
All right, here we are with the monitor settings. One thing you need to note, if you're using Fujifilm, you must update to 5.4.1. That allows you to have F-Log2 settings in here as a log profile, which is pretty awesome. So go to your settings, go to feed, and then go under feed under pipe, color pipe, click OK. You want to hit a new one, so new, and it's going to be defaulted to Rec 709. You want to change that to log. So input type, change to log. In this case, you know, you have those popular cameras, but now you have Fujifilm. Add that to Fujifilm, and then we're gonna go back, and then we're gonna go up here to the target, and since you're HDMI, we can change that target to F-Log2. And let's come out of that. We have one more thing to do. Go to one of your pages, wherever you have your exposure tool. We're just gonna add a new tool for this page. And we're going to go to expose and then exposure assist, add to this page. We're going to go back over into it. We're going to go to style, and then we're going to go all the way over here to EL zone. But yeah, that's how you set up your EL zone on your monitor. Same process for the ND5, Cine 5, Ultra 5, and then the 7-inch monitors as well. But definitely check which monitors are able to have this feature. It's on the website.
Now, a lot of us have been complaining about the fact that there's no red box indicator when recording is a lot better than that little dot. But if you do have a SMALLHD monitor, you can enable a red box around the screen so you can know that you're recording, especially with clean feed since there's no information on that screen. And this is how you do that.
All right, so the first thing you want to do is navigate to the HDMI output setting on the camera itself, in this case the XH2s. Then turn on HDMI record control. From there, go to your SMALLHD monitor and then add a new tool. Navigate all the way down to overlay and then click on metadata. Add that to your page. Open up that setting and make sure all the features are enabled. So timecode, record, make sure all those are on. And then now, once you press record on the camera, a red box will show up indicating that you are recording. And then lastly, the Xmount. Not a lot of people understand this, that the Xmount system is actually very flexible. The moment people think about Fuji, they think about the limited amount of lenses. And Fuji doesn't have a lot of lenses compared to like Sony, they have like hundreds. But the Xmount system is as flexible as a E-mount. You can do PL, you can do all these different types of like a L mount or all sorts of things. You can adapt it to whatever mount that you need for lenses that you have. So people automatically go to the idea that you need native X-mount lenses. Granted, there are some really good still versions of the X-mount lenses, but there's a whole world of adapting for video, and that's what I've been exploring if you've been following my channel.
One quirk that I found is that the DJI transmitter system, the new one that just released this year, it does not work with Fujifilm cameras, and particularly the XH2s. It just kind of renders useless. It just flickers, doesn't get a signal, and there's something completely wrong with it. And I mentioned this in my review with it. So Fujifilm, if you're watching this, please address this. Make friends, buddies with DJI so we can use this tool because it's a really great tool, and that'll be very helpful.
Now, when it comes to my professional work, I've used the XH2s on 5 professional sets as a camera for production. And the budgets range between $8,000 to $30,000. Now, getting to sort of this history of updates with this camera over the last year. So Fujifilm had been pretty faithful of updating it within the first 6 to 8 months. I know the last update that just came out was to fix the 1080p issue that was happening. Basically, if you're filming in F-Log2 and 1080p, you would get extreme color noise. And that's something that I was kind of bummed about because I wanted to just shoot all my videos in 1080p and upscale them later to have that clean look and all that stuff, as well as save space. But I wasn't able to do that because it was so much work to try to clean up the 1080p in the post. But now, they fixed that in the latest update. Now, speeding up to now with the X Summit and then all the new features that came out that we've been asking for in this camera, we see it in the GFX 100 Mark II. It was a head scratcher, to be honest, but now that I've kind of got my emotions past that and really thought about it, at this point, it doesn't make or break whether or not those features are in the camera right now. Those are more of like nice to have features, I would say. Because a lot of times if you're using this camera for video like I have, you're gonna be using a monitor that's going to have all the things that we've been asking for: waveform, recording red box, you'll have all the other scopes, D-squeeze, anamorphic, all those things you'll have with an external monitor, which is necessary for production. So to have it in camera, I haven't missed it. It's just nice to have. That's how I kind of think about it. Now, again, I think they will bring all this to the XH2s because they have to. It's their flagship. But again, it's not as a top priority. This camera is good as is. If you pick this up today, you're gonna have a blast. It's going to perform well. It's going to be a workhorse like it is for me. You'll be happy with it, and that's how I feel about this camera right now. Now that's been the first year. It's been good. Overall, can't really complain. The camera does the thing and does it well. The biggest critique I have, the biggest con I have, is that these aren't production cameras.
You need to leave!
That Fujifilm is still a little hesitant to go fully onto the production world for video. It's just kind of a head scratcher, because as I look at what Sony has offering, Panasonic, Canon, even Nikon, no, never mind, not Nikon, but those camera systems offer their own hybrid systems, but also a dedicated video camera for production. And Fujifilm could really shake up the industry if they did that, if they took the chance to do maybe a small limited run on a very high-end camera that's between, you know, $10,000 to $20,000. I don't know. I don't have the info. I don't have what the market really looks like, but I know a mass response to Fujifilm making a cinema camera will be enormous. Maybe they do understand that and they're just holding back, finding the right time. But the fact that they're putting all this amazing new technology in these cameras, it's cool. But now it just gets confusing, and you want to use it on a real set, but then you're kind of missing out a lot of different elements. But I'm gonna stop myself right there, because in recent news in our community is that the director for the creator had revealed that they had used the FX3 for almost 80 or 90% of the film, which is amazing to see that. Again, they still had $80 million for all the VFX stuff and, you know, Hollywood magic and all that stuff. Money is power when it comes to making films. But this is a testament to the fact that any camera you have right now, you can make a film. It's about the story at hand. And this just proves that. This should be encouraging. Now, it's not just the fact that it's the FX3. Great camera, has a lot of drawbacks in my opinion, but it's a fantastic camera. And for sub $5,000, that just tells you can use any camera to get your hands on to make a film. And if you get the right amount of money that you need for your film, you can do it. That's all that means. The gap between the quality of Hollywood films is getting smaller and smaller and smaller with these amazing cameras. There's still obviously a world for a production camera. Anyway, I digress. I think that's just Fujifilm's Achilles heel right now, is that they seem to be reluctant on making a proper production camera at any scale. If they just simply put the sensor and these two cameras into a different body, it'll be golden. That's just how I feel. So let me know what you think in the comments below. But before I wrap up this video, I'm gonna answer a few more of your questions that you guys have asked me. If I could go back in time, knowing what cameras exist today, would I still buy this camera? Yes. How much use does my XH2s get now that I have the Marvel, which I'm recording on now? Is it a B cam to the Marvel? It's not necessarily a B cam to the Marvel. As much as I can, I try to rent out another Marvel on set, but this project coming up very soon, I will be using the XH2s as a B cam to this, just because I need to fly on a gimbal. And so I have done a few testing where I can match these two very closely. And so it's good enough to be a B camera if I need it to be. This is a similar question. Are you still going to use it on production, or has the Marvel taken over? This all depends on what the project is needing. If we're going to try to be more nimble and light, I will use my XH2s or an FX3 or an FX30, what have you. But majority of the time, if I can get my Marvel on set, I will. And that's going to be the primary camera I'm going to be using for bigger productions. Does the XH2s fill the shoes of my old 6K Pro? Yes and no. The 6K Pro was a very specific way I was using it, mainly for production. So that's why I have my Marvel, Kid Infinity Marvel, that is, if you don't know what I'm talking about. The XH2s does everything else in between what the Marvel doesn't do in this case. So it's a yes and no. Would I say it's on the same par as the FX30? Yes. The only upside I think that the FX30 has is really good autofocus. I don't know if it does the dual native ISO in that camera. It probably does. And then outside of the whole body style, I prefer the body style of the FX30 and FX3 over somewhat of this DSLR kind of thing. But the case that I have from Winning Camera is fantastic. It locks in really well and doesn't budge. So outside of that, I will pick the XH2s over the FX30 in more ways than none, unless I really need really reliable autofocus. Does the XH2s give you time or take time on set? I do my best, as any filmmaker should do, is to rig up the camera as many times as you can before you get on set and have it built out as much as possible, especially if you're the one that's manning it. But when there have been times, like my most recent production with the XH2s, we're filming in LA, really hot. We had a bunch of things hooked up to it, wireless follow focus, transmitter, some other things. There were moments where we had to stop because the camera itself was just kind of overloaded. It did freeze up for a second. We had to unplug everything and then start it up again. It didn't overheat. It was just more of like, we've really maxed it out to its capacity. So that was something I made aware of, like, okay, this is where its limit is. And that's why you need an actual production camera. These mirrorless cameras are great for like burst things, but for long form, long days, and rugged conditions, hybrid mirrorless cameras can't perform as well as a dedicated video camera. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I know there's quite a lot of bit to talk through. I didn't answer everybody's questions, but I did my best to answer it on the community tab. I had over 100 comments there. So if I didn't get to your question yet, I will be, especially if you have more questions in the comments, let me know below. But I do totally recommend this camera. It is the best camera Fujifilm has ever made outside the GFX with the new GFX 100 Mark II. Yeah, okay. I'll see you guys on the next video, and go Birds. 5-0, baby. 5-0.